Hello everyone and welcome back. Here I am at the Atom text editor, not in PyCharm text editor, but you can do that same in PyCharm also. So I have opened up the models.py file and this is where we are going to be actually working with the user model that we talked about in the previous lecture. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do is actually import that basic user model and that comes from django.contrib. Or auth models import. Okay, user. And then we are going to import the user model and I'm actually going to collapse that directory just so we get a little more room here, and let's start creating that model. So we'll say class and we are going to create a user profile info class, and that's going to be inherit from model. And what we are going to be doing, the very first thing is that user. This attribute user for the user profile info is models dot a one-to-one field relationship. So that's one-to-one field with the user itself. Okay. So and the reason for that is because this is basically a model class to add an additional information that the default user doesn't have. Remember, the default user already has a things like their username, email, password, first name and last name. But if you want to add more attributes to your actual user, you can essentially almost like every extending the class. If this one-to-one relationship, what you don't want to do is just directly inherit from the user class. That may seem really tempting, but doing that may screw up your database in thinking that it has multiple instances of the same user. So instead we use a one-to-one field relationship, then below this are the additional classes. So for instance, if we want a portfolio site, so maybe this is a website where people post their portfolio projects of things they have been working on. Okay, so we can say portfolio underscore site as one of the attributes for this model, and then we'll say models dot and we'll call a URL field here, and we'll say this blanks equal to true. And that just means that user does not have to fill it out. There is not going to be an error if they don't provide a portfolio site, and then we want another one. An other attribute that is called profile underscore pic pic, and that's going to be equal to models dot image field. And then we need to specify where we actually want to upload this to, and we are going to upload this to, and we'll set it equal to profile underscore pics as a string, and then we will also set this blank equals to true. That way the user doesn't need to actually provide their profile picture at first if they don't want to. Now because we specified we want to upload to profile pics, that's going to be to need that's going to need to be a subdirectory in the media folder we created last time. So bringing up the directory, I have the media folder here. I am going to expand this, and then I'll say new folder, and under that I am going to call it profile underscore pics, then hit enter. And then when people upload their images, their profile images, they are going to be saved here under media profile pics. Okay. So continuing on with our models, what I want to do is add in one more method, not an attribute, just for printing this out. So if I ever need a print out a model of a user profile info, I can get something back. So it will take itself because it's a method. And here we'll just say return self dot user dot username, where username our username is that default attribute of this user, because remember we just said user is equal to models one-to-one field of user. All right. And that's actually all we need to do for our models up high. But as I mentioned, if we are going to be working with images, we want to make sure we have the Flow library installed. So here in my virtual environment, I am going to say pip install Flow, hit enter. Okay, and it should collect Flow and install it. This may be little bit of a longer installation than what you are used to, so keep that in mind. I'm going to hop forward in time until it finishes installing. Okay, it's finished, and for me it takes 30 seconds. Hopefully yours is the same, and I don't know about that. And then check out the notes as well, especially for any information. Check out the documentation online and check out the chat GPT. That says something like a JPG disabled there. And I note in the previous lecture about what you need to do. You need to set some global options there. And if you want the actual line of code, check out the Django level 5 nodes. It's under the models.py file. There is a line of code above the maze field, so you can just copy and paste that. Anyways, let's model.py file, open that, and let's create the form for our model.py file. So under our application, we will say a new file and call it forms.py. Hit enter, and now we are ready to actually work with the forms. So the first thing to do is say from Django import forms. Second thing you need to do from django.contrib.auth.models import user. And then we will import the model we made, which was from the basic app models. Okay, so import models. Or so from the basic app.models, we need to import user profile info and save that. And now we are going to create two classes here for each models. One will be the user form, and this is kind of the basic form, base form, and this is going to be inheriting from forms and the model form. Review the Django label that talks about forms. If this is a little fuzzy or confusing to you, but we will have here a password attribute that we want to kind of edit a bit, and we'll say from forms or is equal to forms dot char field, and this is going to be visit equal to forms, that password, and put close parenthesis. Okay, and then finally we have that meta class that we talked about, and we'll set the model equal to the user model, and then the fields we want from the base user model. So I want the user name here, and I want the email field, and I want the password. So we would not be asking people for their last name or their first name, but you could have add that in if you want to. Next for class, we'll say user profile info, and again we inherit from forms.model form, and this one there is nothing I want to edit as far as attributes are concerned. So we'll just say class meta. Okay, and now we will say the model is equal to user profile info, and I will say the fields is equal to the two fields I want, which are that portfolio site field, and then the other field we made was that profile pic field. Okay, save that. That's it. And now your forms are ready to go. One last thing we want to do though is actually register the model we created to the admin. That way, if we log in as an admin, we can see the actual model. So I will come to admin.py under basic app, and I am going to say here from basic app uh, that models going to import the user profile info that I created. And then I am going to say admin site register. That's it. Okay. That should be a lowercase register. And I am going to register that user profile info. You need to save that. And we have created the models that we are going to be using, essentially just that user profile, which is a one-to-one match to the built-in user with Django. The forms that's going to collect the information on the actual registration page, and then the admin.py file. And that is essentially part one of what we need to do to set up everything as far as the models in the forms. Part two of what we need to do is actually connect all of this to the templates. So the home page, the registration page, the login page, etc. So we are going to end this here and we'll see you at the next lecture where we begin to discuss how to expand of this. But it's ending this. You should have models.py, admin.py, form.py ready to go inside of your application. And remember, whenever you edit the admin.py file or create a new model where you are going to want to do is down here at the bottom, say python manage.py migrate, hit enter, and then once that's done, what you see, you may see something like it says make migrations. So you also need to do that. You will need to say python manage.py make migrations and then the name of your application, so the basic app to enter that's going to create some, and then we will say python manage.py migrate one more time and we are ready to go. Okay, so thanks everyone for the part one of that tutorial. So I will also code the part two of that application in the next lecture. Okay, so thank you for watching this.